All right. Next team is Mercedes, since we were just talking about Lewis Hamilton. Oh, right. Similar to since we were just talking about Ferrari, Mercedes and Ferrari actually seem to have gone for pretty similar front noses, which kind of makes me think that they've done it right. If it was, pretty much any two other teams, I probably maybe wouldn't think that. But the fact that Mercedes and Ferrari, two of the biggest teams, if not the two biggest, or two of the biggest, came to the test with such similar style noses, it makes me think that they've kind of gone the right direction.
Yeah, but it's difficult to say that, isn't it? Really, I don't doubt they would have looked at all the other designs, but just because they've gone down one path doesn't mean it's necessarily the best path.
It's quite a coincidence, though.
They had to commit, the way I understand it, they had to commit fairly early to the front wing design, realistically, to be able to get on with the rest of the car, because of course that's what the air hits first, and then once it hit the front wing, it then goes to the rest of the car. So, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. But the way I understand it is that the front wing on those two cars gives more front downforce than the others. The others are more concentrated on rear downforce. So that possibly implies that they found ways of giving more rear downforce, so they're now working on front downforce.
I did not know that.
Still try and recover the rear downforce. Yeah, it creates some low pressure under the actual front wing nose cone itself. Whereas of course most of them have just got a gap there. It creates actual pressure underneath there, which of course helps with downforce. So,
interesting.
Yeah, there's also, they were saying that the Ferrari and Mercedes have got a longer wheelbase than the other cars, which would give the air longer to reattach to the side pods and go into the diffuser, so that could be helping as well. But yes, it's like you said, it's not a coincidence for sure that they've both gone for pretty similar designs. And but I think, like I mentioned on Twitter, I don't think one front wing design is going to help, is going to particularly win this season. I likened it to. Oh, what I like it to, I can't remember. Do you remember seeing my tweet?
No, I don't remember this one.
Brilliant, that's good news. Well, but I basically don't think one particular front wing design is going to win over every other. Oh, that was it. It was the McLaren side pods of 2011, I think it was. They had the L-shaped side pods, which was completely different to any other team. Even they dropped it, and no other team picked it up. But mid-season McLaren didn't drop it. I know it's a big change, but they can do that. And mid-season, no other team picked it up. So even though it's quite a big difference, a visually big difference, it just didn't really make that much difference overall, because the car was still quick, and second quickest car, second to Red Bull. I think that'll be the same this year. I don't think any particular front wing will be huge, unless anyone finds a particularly big innovation. I don't think any particular front wing will be hugely better. There'll be advantages and disadvantages of each, but I don't think there'll be. I can't see Lotus, for example, suddenly switching to either finger nose or a Mercedes style nose, or even any other bigger teams, to be honest. Unless there is a particular trick that gets found. I just don't think it's going to make that much difference, really.
Yeah, I think James Allison was saying the same thing, that the front wing isn't such, the nose tip design isn't such a big deal for the rest of the car, because it's so much about the reliability and the cooling and all the other stuff with the new ERS, that the nose itself isn't the crucial part in the car, which would make or break the championship.
Right.
I think the end plates are quite crucial now, because they're obviously, the front wing has got to be thinner, not as wide. So
it's got to direct the air around the wheels now.
Exactly, which is obviously a lot harder to do now that they're shorter. So it's got to throw the air that much further. I think that'll be quite a big thing. But obviously that's quite an easy thing to update. But like you said, I don't think the central part of the wing is going to make a huge difference. No.
Now, visually, which do you guys prefer? The Mercedes Ferrari kind of Hoover style, or the penis/anteater style?
Or the twin tusk style?
Right. Yeah. Or the Lotus style.
I have to say the Mercedes nose with the camera mounts, I think it looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the Ferrari purely because it does look like a Hoover.
It does. It really does.
Yeah, I love that Photoshop, the image someone done as the Ferrari Hoover, because it just works. It really, really works. But yeah, I do particularly like the Mercedes, which I'm really happy with. Of course, Hamilton fan and as such a Mercedes fan. And then so thinking, oh god, it's going to be ugly, but no, having seen the beautiful car, I was like, yes, happy days. But yes, I do think Mercedes looks best. I think Red Bull's close behind though. Even though they've gone for a kind of fingery type nose, I think they're close behind. Obviously, we'll get onto them in a minute. But yeah, personally, the Mercedes is my favourite. But again, not by huge amounts, but by some.
Yeah.
Well, as a Hamilton fan, do you think this is his chance for another championship?
I think it's early to say. I think he will beat Rosberg. I don't think there's any doubt in that over a season that Rosberg will beat Hamilton. I think he'll definitely, if say Mercedes has the strongest car this year, I think Rosberg will definitely get wins. I think he'll definitely be right with Hamilton. I'm not saying he'll absolutely dominate him, but I think over a whole season, Hamilton will just, as long as he's on top of his game, he will just score the most points. So I think if Mercedes are going to have the fastest car, Hamilton will win the championship. I think Rosberg's good, but just not quite good enough. Better than Button though, for sure.
Wouldn't it depend more on his relationship with Nicole rather than the performance of the car?
Yeah. Well, not more than the performance of the car, obviously, but it does seem that's annoying.
Feels like that sometimes.
Yeah, it is annoying me. The way quite a lot of last season he seems to be down, and I can see him retiring early. I can see him retiring at the end of his Mercedes contract, to be honest, because he's just downbeat every race at the moment, isn't he? Even in testing, he's not enjoying it. It's frustrating because I do support him. I think he's a really good driver, and when he's on top of a game, I really do think he's unbeatable. When Hamilton turns up and he's on it, he just absolutely smashes it. I can't think of any examples recently because obviously he's been moving teams and stuff.
I think Silverstone Pole is one of the best examples of him just turning it on. He just boom,
he like
I'm the fastest person.
Yeah, 4/10, wasn't
it? He does that like 2 minutes after getting into the car. I mean, 1 minute he's standing there, and then next minute he's fastest person on the planet.
Waving to the waving to the fans and that. Yeah, it's but for me, like you said, that's all about mentality. That's all about thinking, right, it's obviously it's about the car, but it's about him turning up thinking, right, I'm going to smash it this weekend. Silverstone home Grand Prix, thinking I've got a good car, I can get pole, I'm going to smash it this weekend. And he would have won the race. I don't think there's many people that doubt that if they his tire.
Oh yeah, he was going to win.
But yeah, just absolutely smashed it. And I feel so sorry for him. His second Silverstone and second home win, and his first Mercedes win. Oh, it'd have been amazing, but it didn't quite work out. But yeah, I really do think when he's on top of his game, he's unbeatable. But he needs to sort his life out basically to be able to get on top of his game more because he should be more. He's not, like I say, I don't want him to retire, but in all honesty, I can just see it happening. Yeah. If he doesn't do something about his life, because he's like I say, mainly Nicole, I think it's been affected him on and off relationship, of course, and it's not good. But hopefully we see Lewis strong this year.
I will say it does kind of make things interesting when you're watching Lewis. I mean, he's not my favorite driver. I love Lewis. I think he's amazing, but he's British, so I have a harder time. He's for the British people. I totally get that. I think he's awesome though. I'm not talking down on Lewis or anything, but it makes it interesting. I'll call myself a neutral viewer. I don't particularly wish one way or another or anything like that, but it does make things interesting when he's kind of struggling with things, and then it makes it that much more interesting on a weekend where he's in a good mood because you're like, oh man, he's on it today.
It is when he's in a good mood, and you really looking forward to quality, aren't you? Because
exactly,
this is going to be something special. He is just going to nail it, and
it's all about peaks and lows with Lewis, and the peaks wouldn't be as interesting without the lows. So
I do agree.
It's a
but
trade-off.
I miss 2007 and 2008 when he was at McLaren. They had a really fast car up against Alonso as well. When I really, really look forward to the dying moments of quali, because always Lewis smashed a lap in the last lap. Always. He wasn't always on pole, obviously, but you could guarantee he would smash a lap in right at the end. Almost every quali. Obviously, not always, but seemed like most of the time. I could be looking back with rose-tinted glasses here, but that's how I recall it anyway. And just seeing him come across the line, someone's on pole and he comes across the line, last driver across the line, and just absolutely smashes it. Not even even if it's only by half a tenth, just comes across and gets pole. And he was really exciting to watch because of that. Because you could count on a special lap. It's not necessarily going to be pole. It's going to be close. Yeah. And that's really, really good to watch. Abu Dhabi last year would have been the same if he didn't have his, I think it was a suspension failure, wasn't it, in quali? Last-ditch lap, he was like 4/10 off pole, but he was on a really good lap and looking like he could get pole. It was going to be really close. And I think America 2012 as well. I know he was second to Vettel in quali. But of course, overtook Vettel, much to Vettel's hatred under DRS. But again, that was a race that he was really on it, and he was really fired up, on fire. He's when he's on fire, for me he's the most entertaining driver. But
and you see it on Friday even, boom, right as soon as he gets into the paddock on Friday, oh man, everyone's gonna have to look out for him because he's in a good mood this weekend.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. After practice one, the interviews after practice one on Friday, whether Lewis is going to be able to smash it on pole or not, pretty much, if he's got a good enough car. And it is good. He peaks and troughs, but I would obviously prefer it if he was like that all the time. That you always know you'd smash a lap in. Much like Alonso in 2012, when he kind of always was right on top of his game. I think he went down a bit downhill last year, didn't he? But yeah, it's a good driver to watch. I really like him.
Now the $1 million question that I have regarding Mercedes is Rosberg capable of being a world champion?
Not up against Hamilton. I touched on this a second ago, didn't I? But not up against Hamilton. I was thinking about this, weirdly, having a wee the other day, I was thinking about this. Don't know why, that was really random, but that's where I was thinking about it. And I was thinking he's probably going to have to move teams to be champion, or move away from Hamilton, whoever moves, to be champion. I can't see it happening in the same team as Lewis, unless Lewis really goes downhill. Has a, was it 2011, 2010 that he had a bad year and Button beat him on points? 11. Yeah, I just can't see it happening. Which, as a driver, would you rather move to a slower car and hope that you have a better car one year to be able to win more championship, or would you rather stay in a good car and just hope that you can get on top of the driver? Because if you're never going to beat a driver in the same car, why stay in that team? If you want to be a world champion, why stay in that team? Because you're never going to be a world champion if you pretty much know you're never going to be able to beat this other guy.
Well, that must mean
that's the Mark Webber question.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, he was at the end of his career, though. I think he'd already pretty much resigned himself to not winning. He was just enjoying a quick car, I think, at the end.
Yeah, so it is a little bit more applicable to Rosberg. But I mean, does that mean that Rosberg thinks he's capable of beating Hamilton?
I think so.
I think at the moment, so possibly. I think this year will decide it. Yeah. I think this year will decide it. I think if he again falls foul points this year, I think he'll think, right, I'm probably not going to be able to beat this guy now. But the difficulty is that it is tight. It's not like Hamilton's dominated him. It is tight. It is close.
I mean, technically,
if Rosberg could somehow step up his game, he would be right up there with Hamilton.
Nico won more races than Hamilton, right? He won 2 races last year. Yeah, back-to-back races, Silverstone and Monaco.
Yeah.
Oh,
like that.
Or no, I think Canada separates
he won 3,
those.
Didn't he?
Did he win 3?
I could be wrong.
No, I think 2.
No, yeah, just 2. And then Hamilton won Hungary. So I mean, he's right there with him. Again, it's splitting hairs when you compare F1 drivers. Yeah, but
especially those 2.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think in some ways they might be a better pairing than Alonso and Raikkonen. If you separate out each driver individually as a person, I think Alonso and Raikkonen are the better pair. But when you consider the team behind them, the fact that Lewis and Nico have a year together already, they're already accustomed to being told to hang back and not pass and stuff like that. I think potentially they could be a serious threat to Ferrari.
I think the thing is that they've both got a lot of respect for the team, particularly Rosberg has been there a few years. The whole Malaysia issue when obviously Vettel overtook Webber, but Rosberg didn't overtake Hamilton. I think that was out of respect, A, to the team, and to Ross Brawn. I think he was key in that as well.
Yeah.
They both really, really respect the team, and they're both there for the team. Much like I imagine they would be at Ferrari, but which is completely different at Red Bull. I think that's definitely a key factor, though, in the whole sort of scenario, really, is that they're not just trying to beat each other however they can, much like Vettel was doing with Webber, really. They are there to get a solid result for the team, which is what Hamilton talked about end of last year. I'm just here at Brazil, for example. He was like, I'm not going to get a podium. I'm just here to score solid points for the team and hopefully get the constructors. That's all he was concentrating on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
what do you think about some people are saying that because Rosberg is more the engineering type. I think I'm just reading his Wikipedia article that he got actually offered a place on the aeronautical engineering course at the Imperial College in London.
Holy crap!
Oh, wow, okay.
He's really smart. He speaks like 6 languages and things like that.
I knew that much.
What do you think about his strengths as in the sense of engineering and with these new cars?
I think that could mean that he'll be a Mercedes, employee for life. The day that he's no longer able to race a car, I think they'll be willing to double his salary to design the cars.
Double his salary, I'm not sure about that. But, I honestly don't think that makes a huge difference. Not that level of technical in these days, because you're surrounded by people that know more than you about that. Even if Rosberg knows loads about it, all his engineers know more than him about it, so it's irrelevant really. All he needs to be able to do is give really good feedback. I've heard Raikkonen gives really good feedback at Ferrari. That's been one of their first impressions. Say specifically what you want the car to do. This corner gives me too little traction on the exit. That's enough, because then they can work out, right, that corner's this speed, we've got this much downforce, there's this much, yaw in the car. They can then work out from there. You don't need to say, I want, 2 degrees more toe, or, that's a lot, isn't it? 0.1 degree more toe. That's just not required. You just need to give good feedback. I don't think the engineering thing really makes too much difference. But I do think Vettel's commitment that we've heard about, staying late at the track and stuff and really working on the setup, I think that's definitely key. But in terms of actually knowing about engineering, I don't think that really matters in modern day F1.
Yeah, and not in modern day F1. I think if Nico had been born 40 years ago, he would have been just as strong as like Lauda, for example, who was good at the same types of things.
Yeah, so, I finally watched the Rush movie the other day, and that's.
Oh, did you love it?
The movie come across. It was really good. It was really good. Good. My partner enjoyed it as well. I was trying to recommend it to her and trying to make her watch it with me, and she wouldn't. And I finally made her watch it, and she did actually quite enjoy it in the end. I was like, I told you, it's like a film. It's not like a documentary. But no, I did really enjoy it. It was really good. Yeah.
So Mercedes, though, obviously off to a great start for 2014. They did the most laps out of all the teams, 309 laps total. Fastest
with a front wing failure, which I think is not irrelevant, but in terms of reliability, that isn't something they're particularly looking at. Yeah, they want to find that problem.
Yeah,
but
this was the best place for it to happen.
Well, exactly, first day, and obviously that lost them half a day. They probably would have had another 50 laps. It wasn't for that, maybe not.
Good
50,
point.
Another 20, 30 laps because of that.
Yeah.
That problem isn't one that would concern. I mean, that's easy to fix. If you've got serious problems like Renault and Red Bull have, then that's getting serious. But they fixed it overnight. They literally said, "This is what we need. This is the bit we need stronger." The factory did it, and then they sent it out overnight, and then it was on the car the next morning. So it's the right thing to go wrong. So very, very strong. From
car seems
for
quick.
Now, only from reliability, they look very, very strong. Again,
car seems quick as well. Times don't matter, but they were one of the teams that got down into the 123s as well, which again doesn't hurt. So. They're definitely off to
quick.
They're off to a good start. I think. I mean, they're off to the best start out of everyone. And again, the start doesn't mean everything, but it certainly helps.
Yeah, definitely. They're looking very strong. Particularly their engine package, I think it's definitely paying dividends. But I heard that they're slightly overweight. Again, Ted Kravitz, big up.
Mm-hmm.
I heard they're slightly overweight, which. They might be able to get down to weight before the first race. If not, it'll probably be a couple of races in. Perhaps by the time they get back to Europe, they'll almost be guaranteed down to the weight limit. But that won't be helping for sure.
Yeah.
And I hear that they were not on the edge in terms of cooling, but they weren't as comfortable as they'd like to be in terms of cooling, despite the fact it was quite low ambient temperatures in Jerez. So Bahrain will be interesting to test. If they start to have failures in Bahrain, they might need to work on it, but I imagine they probably would have already made changes by then to make it okay.
Yeah.
But I hear they were perhaps a little bit more marginal than they would like to have been.
I would imagine that they kind of brought equipment accordingly. They would have known that the cooler test was first, so they could bring a certain set of aerodynamics, and they can develop the Bahrain set of aerodynamics in the 2 weeks that they have after Jerez. So I imagine they're prepared in that.
With the exact same thing, yeah.
Right, exactly.
You don't want to be changing side pod,
right,
for example. So it's only small things really. It's not a huge thing. And I think I said to you, Justin, the other day that the turbo runs at 100,000 RPM. It's 125,000 RPM.
Yeah.
Which is utterly ridiculous. How can it spin that fast? That's just mental. It's mind-boggling. When we consider 18,000 RPM for an engine, I realise it's a lot bigger component.
Right,
but,
right. It's got the crankshaft and everything.
High. Yeah, but just it's ridiculous. And they run at is it like 800 degrees Celsius or something stupid?
Yeah.
Like red hot. It's just.
Yeah.
Engineering-wise, it's absolutely amazing what they're doing with the engines, and that's why I like the engines. I know particularly Ownage has been outspoken about hating the engines and they sound horrible and it's a stupid decision and blah blah blah, typical Ownage ranting. But yeah, I do like it purely from the technical point of view. I think I would rather have more power and I'd rather have more noise, but other than that, I really like the new engines. I think it's definitely the right move overall.
Yeah, it's a small sacrifice to make, I think, for progress. The sport does need to move forward. One of my big questions as far as like noise level is concerned was rather than use a 1.6 liter at 15,000 RPM, maybe they should have done like a 1.2 liter at 20,000 RPM.
That'd be worse.
Would it be? I don't understand that stuff very well.
You don't want screaming of an engine. Say for example that a crappy little car that's got like a 1 liter engine. When they're screaming in first gear, it doesn't sound nice, does it? It just sounds horrible.
No.
But then when you get a big like 3-4 liter engine that even just cruising along, it just purrs.
Right.
It's got that deeper, throatier noise. You want bigger engine size within reason. So that would definitely be a worse call for, I think anyway.
Possibly. Okay, I'm just, again, I don't understand this stuff, so that's kind of why I'm just throwing it out. What if instead of 6 cylinders, you ran with 4 larger cylinders? So it still totals out to 1.6 liters, but it's a smaller displacement per cylinder. Do you know what kind of difference that would make with the sound?
Again, I'm not too sure. All I know is that in road cars, a V12 sounds better than a V6. But whether that's just because the V12 tends to be the Ferraris and the V6 tends to be like
Honda,
half-decent Audi or half-decent Honda sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know if I think Mika, you're pretty good with the technical stuff. I don't know if you can shed any light on that.
No, not really. Yeah, I think it's a lot about the like. I don't know how much all the ERS systems and the turbo like dissipates the sound, like the.
I think did you hear the Take Rabbits did a Ferrari powering down?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that?
That was really good. Yeah.
That's ridiculous how noisy that is. But you can't really hear it when the engine's firing. You can't really hear that. You can, obviously, it is part of the noise, but you can't hear it like whirring as such or humming. But when it powers down, it's like really loud. You're like, holy hell!
That's kind of the reason I like. Obviously it's not as loud. The V8s have their bonuses. I don't think anyone would actually say that they specifically like the V6 sound better. But I do like, one of the reasons I do like it is because it's so complex. There just seems to be a lot happening at the same time. There's like layers of sound going on all simultaneously, and it just sounds very futuristic. And it also for the fans that are going to be there on track, it means that nobody has to wear ear protection anymore, as far as we know. I mean, certainly no one was wearing ear protection at Jerez, but
that's been the general consensus among kind of like the media people, isn't it? Is that
right?
It's quieter, but it means you have to wear earplugs. Which is a bonus. So yeah. But for me, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I do want it to sound better, but what can you do? It's pointless going back to say 2.4 litre or 3 litre engines, because then you just have a lot more power, and we don't want loads more power. For me, I would rather just have a better fuel flow limit, like I said, so that the fuel flow is more linear up to 15,000. So straight away you got more revs, that'll sound better. And then have with that increased fuel flow, so that you have more power. So because I mean the 1500 horsepower cars, they were 1.5 litres, weren't they?
Yeah.
1.5 litre turbos, but they had de-restricted fuel flow and de-restricted turbo pressure, I think, at that time. So now we've got de-restricted turbo pressure, but restricted fuel flow. So it's a different restriction. So I think just increase the fuel flow, because then the turbos will be fine, and put it up to maybe 1,000 horsepower. Because for me, it is about them having loads of power as well. They've got lots of power, but it's more about torque now than power, which is kind of for me goes a little bit against what motorsport is. Not having the more noise, the more power type attitude. It's more about the more electrical juice you've got, the more power. It's kind of a bit of a different move.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I think just amending the fuel flow rules will fix most of that. I don't know if they'll sound too much better, but I think it will definitely help.
Yeah, for sure.
It reminded me the video where they had the Ferrari powering off the high pitched sound, how it just fades away. It kind of like it's like a fighter jet.
Yeah, powering down. Yeah. I thought the same thing.
Or a vacuum cleaner.
No, that's not a vacuum cleaner. No, it does sound nicer than the vacuum cleaner.
Most expensive vacuum cleaner ever.
F14T.